Hey everybody, welcome to Don't Worry
Welcome.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
You're welcome. And welcome
Thank
Joe
you. Oh, thank you.
to Don't Worry Wednesday.
Welcome to you, Joe.
Well, you're Joe.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. All right. Hey guys, thanks for being here. Sorry we're so late. We pushed back the starting time for Don't Worry Wednesdays because my son's in the middle of basketball season. He had a game, and it was an away game. It started late and it went into overtime. It was quite something, I'll tell you what. But but we're here now, and so we can get going. But thank you guys so much for your patience, and thank you for joining us. This is our show where we talk about you guys, the stuff that's going on in your lives, anything that might be happening. You can feel free to go to don'tworrywednesday.com, and you can click the submit a topic button, and then fill out that form, and you can submit a topic, and we would be happy to cover whatever it is that's going on in your life that you would like to talk about. We are not licensed therapists. We're not professional counselors or anything like that. We Joe might be, he's had like so many professions.
We'll just add that one next. That'll be up there.
Is that going to be the next one?
No, we just gotta come up with something new. Change up.
Oh yeah, right. Okay. That could be it. I've got a new track for you to run on. Yes. Joe is subbing for Ryan. Ryan is currently, I think he's on a plane or in changing planes or something. He's on his way halfway across the world. So he's not going to be with us tonight, or the next couple weeks, actually, I don't think, unless something weird happens. But we have Joe, and Joe and I have done live streams before. It's always a fun time. We always do. We always have a great time. Joe does such a great job for us. You know, he's got such a rich life experience, and he's not even 29 yet. Did you just whisper something?
I might have said I was 29 like 3 months
Oh,
ago.
you were?
But yep. Now
Oh
I'm not.
man.
Now I'm 29 in 3 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's awesome. So anyway, we're gonna be here and we're gonna do topics, and it's gonna be a great time. As I said before, we're not professional therapists, but we do want to be your friend. We want to help in any way we possibly can. We want to just love you along this journey and share whatever we can, mostly love and friendship and companionship, with the short amount of time that we have with you, but also some friendly perspective, because sometimes when you're in the middle of something that's going on, it's tough to see the whole picture, and sometimes it helps to have an outside perspective looking at the issue and just, touching on some things that maybe you lost sight of in the middle of it. Because man, I know that when I'm in the middle of stuff, I can get hyper focused on one little aspect of it, and it can be pretty tough to see the rest of it. So hopefully we can help you in any way possible. So as I introduced Joe already, that's him, and he's awesome. And yeah, and I'm also Joe. So
He's
when you
also
say
awesome
Joe, well, I'm not nearly as awesome as you, though.
because he's twice as awesome.
Oh my.
And he's only 20.
Oh my. Yes. 20.
Oh me, oh my, oh mo. What wonderful
I'm
Joes we have.
I am the youngest here.
Mhm.
Princess, you're such a sweetheart. Princess is here. She's handling all of our she handles so much in the background. She manages our topics for us. She reads the topics for us. She keeps us all on track and organized and everything, and she has to put up with us, which is, oh my gosh. Like,
Yeah.
and she has this beautiful face. I'm going to put her face on the screen so you guys can all see it, because now we're back. Welcome back. There she is. I mean, Princess is so amazing. but yeah, so and she also offers her insight, which is very, very valuable coming from her perspective. She's female, which which adds a lot to the perspective. And also, she's had her own unique mixture of life experience that brings so much to the table. And she's helped me through a lot of things. She's just awesome. So, um, I'm gonna put her face on the screen. Ends the show.
My face is too powerful, obviously.
Oh my gosh, it's such a powerful face.
Mhm.
Powerful face, powerful mind, powerful knowledge, all of that. So, anyway, you guys are awesome. Welcome. How are you all doing in the chat tonight? You guys look great. How are you doing, Joe?
They do look great. Probably the best looking chat on YouTube.
Absolutely the best looking chat on
Without
YouTube.
exception. Yeah, exactly. I mean, really tough to compare. And
Mhm.
I mean, everybody's been here a while, and some returners. The Pun
Mhm.
Master. I expect great things from you, Pun Master. Oh, Master of Puns.
Oh, the master of the puns. Joe, this Joe above me, he is quite the pun master as well. He's a punny fellow. Um, yes. So, anyway, you guys are awesome. How you doing, Princess?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. And wow, thank
Oh,
you
how
so
are you
much.
doing?
How am I doing?
Yeah.
Man, I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around myself, which is crazy.
Your head wrapped around you. So interesting. A stretchy man.
Well, it's just been one thing after the other today, and then, and we left the game, and it was snowing, and the wind was like 5 million miles per hour, and it's just crazy out there. So, yeah, it was. I'm like driving. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it. But then I made it. It's a little bit late, but that's okay. Um, so Ash, you know, I try to wrap my head around myself. It is quite painful.
I see. Well, you should stop doing that then.
Yeah, maybe I'll just go see a doctor and they'll tell me to stop doing that or something. But anyway, you guys are awesome. I say, what do you think? Should we just get started? You guys want to jump into our first topic?
Sure.
What do you
Sure, I
think?
think so.
All right. Well, we have one here from Strawberry Paste. It is called The Value of the Past and the Future. And I'm definitely interested to hear this, hear what it's all about. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up on the screen so you guys can read it while Princess reads it aloud. So, Princess, whenever you're ready, it's there for you. And you're muted. And that's okay.
Sometimes that happens.
It does happen, yes.
I was listening to an interview with the developers for a game that I play. When asked about the most important step forward they have made for their project over the last 10 years, the developers listed many of their major accomplishments within the game. Then they said, let's say the most important is always the future, and it always has to be done. It's not in the past. This struck me. In a way, it seems to be saying that there is always work to be done, which is good. But it also seems to devalue past accomplishments, which may be less good. What you do is no longer important once it has been done. But at the same time, if you don't continue to build off of your accomplishments and move on to the next thing, then you will be losing out. The most important thing to do can't already be done, but you can't do the ever important second step, which needs to be done, unless you have already completed the first step. What then is the importance of the first step? As an outsider coming into a group trying to accomplish something, you have no attachment to the past achievements of the group. You only see where you are and what can be done. Sort of like a state machine. If two, then frog. It doesn't matter how that 2 came to be, only that frog is the next state. This sort of harkens back to my topic and the importance and value. But this is more about accomplishments. We stand on the shoulders of giants, but we see not the value of their struggles, only the results of their success. From SP.
Mm, this is a great topic. I like this. Thank you so much for sharing this, Strawberry Paste. And yeah, there's a lot that can be said about this, because we do kind of run in a progression of accomplishments, and sometimes things have to be done before we can take the next step. And you're absolutely right that, from an outsider's perspective, we don't always see all the challenges that went through in completing some of those first steps and getting us to the point where we're at now. So yeah, it can be tough to determine sometimes what the value of accomplishment is versus the value of the current effort and the current goal, the current, objective that we're trying to reach. But sometimes those accomplishments are the very things that set up the possibility to, move forward and to take those next steps and try harder. So, um, I'll tell you, you know, I'm excited to hear what Joe has to say. Um, this guy is brilliant. As I said before, he's had multiple different professions, and all of them very admirable. Golf pro, accountant, certified public accountant, not just an accounting employee, but he actually got his CPA license and everything, and now he's a teacher, which is one of the most valuable professions out there, teaching the next generations and bringing them up. That's such an amazing thing. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. So I'm going to get out of his way and turn it over to you. So, Joe, are you ready?
Yeah, you sure? But yeah, I'm just gonna open with like, this great background here, and then we have things like, hey, I saw this on a TV show once. I'm gonna open this, so I'm ready. But
All right.
thanks, Joe.
Yeah,
Um,
go for it.
yeah. So actually, this is an interesting story. Or this is an interesting question, and I think it brings in a lot of what we all have. So, Joe kind of gave a bit of background on my history, but there's a lot, right? Like even 29 years of age here is 29 years of experience. There has been a lot that has brought the three of us that are on the show together. Like it was a long process. It wasn't like it happened yesterday or even, you know, 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Okay. It's a process to get here. And so the past is a huge component of what you're doing and where you're going. So I think it's important that you look at the past, the present, and the future. And what do you value? What is valuable to you now? What was valuable to you? Maybe you didn't see yourself doing this, right? Like I can honestly tell you, my life path was not like I'm gonna do that. Let me roadmap out my career professions. All right, teacher for 2.5 years, and then we'll become psychologists, and then astronomer in 3 more years after that. And then maybe we'll loop around and be like a lawyer or something. Like generally speaking, right? You don't know what the world has in front of you. And I think that helps us to get at the idea that you talk about, Strawberry Paste, of the value is in the future. Because there's value in something that's not expected or what could be. The value that could be is great, right? We could have a I know what the value of my past is because it's already happened. I've lived it. I have set value there. It's
Hmm.
something that just is. All right. And maybe it's good, right? Like as you say, there is some value in past accomplishments and it can be great. But the thing about the future accomplishments is it could be, 10 cents or winning the lottery. Like you don't know, but the value could be pretty much infinite. And
Hmm.
so when we think about value, it's important to consider maybe the developers are just saying, look, what we've done in the past, we know we've got it. It's been decided for us. But if we want to make good games in the future, if we want to do the best thing that we can do, Well, we have to assume, therefore, that the value we are going to have in the future is astronomically greater than what we've already done. It's kind of that perspective of I'm gonna be better because one, because I have to be, but two, because I want to be. Like, I want the future to be more valuable than the past. And so, while I don't think it's bad to say, hey, there's value in the past, and I don't think it's bad to say there's value in the future, just have it in perspective. Have your life in perspective. And so, this makes me think of a show. This is where I was leading into, that I just watched this last few days. It's called Kino's Journey, The Beautiful World, and it's the 2017 version because there's more than one version. And there's a country that this individual visits, and the country has a social credit system. And the idea is, as you do good things, you gain a valuable credits. Maybe you save somebody's life and you get credits for that, or you help a lady across the street and you get credits for that, or you do public service and you get credits for that. And in this particular scene, it's a short snippet. It's done like episodically, and the gentleman who's there says, well, I've spent all of my life doing these great things, and I have built up enough social credit. I could actually just kill somebody, and I'd be fine. I wouldn't go into jail because of our social credit system.
Whoa.
And it's like, wait a minute, right? Like, for the rest of us, for those of us in our society today, we go, I don't think it matters what you did in the last however many years of your life. Like, that's not okay. Right? So there's a value in the past in what you've done, and it can be good, and you could have made a huge difference for the people before, but that doesn't mean that you've earned enough value to make up for what you're going to do in the future. The future has that value of, it's where you go going forward. It has options both good and bad, and the bad options can overtake the good ones from the past. And the good options can negate bad decisions in the past. I think most of us would think, if I've had a rough go at life for a little while, if things haven't been going my way, I would like the future to be better. Like, I want to move past that. I don't want to be there anymore. Right? And so there's value in just saying the future has great value, right? If I am behind and I am losing out on things, and I think that, hey, the future doesn't really have much great value to me, that doesn't help me. That doesn't help things move forward. That doesn't provide me or the people around me with great chance and opportunity. It doesn't move any of us forward. So why not? Why wouldn't I want to say there's great value in the future? And likewise, if I've done great things in the past, I don't want to say that the future is insignificant compared to those accomplishments, even though those accomplishments might have been great, because I want to keep moving forward. So I want to keep building on things. Now, it's okay to rest. All right. It's okay. And now that we've gotten through this dichotomy of the past being bad or good and the future being bad or good, you can have neutral. You can just rest. Right? If you've done a good thing, it is okay to rest in that thing. It's okay to say, that thing I did, that was good. And now I'm going to take a break. I know, I think for some of us, I being of the Christian faith, the origin story of the world, God builds the world for 6 days and then he rests. He's like, that was good. I'm just going to take a break. And he's like, that's good. And other people should follow. It's okay to say, things I did in the past, great value. Time to just chill. That's okay too. And I just want you to know that. I don't know that that's necessarily on your mindset or what you're thinking here. But I think it's important for all of us to recognize that, yeah, the past does have some value. And that if, you've had giants that came before you that you're standing on, maybe you take a second to see not only the value of their struggles, but also the results of their success. If you're sitting up there on the top of the giant and you're trying to go, all right, you got me up here. Now let's see what we can do with it. It's okay to take a moment and look down and go, whoa, I got way up here.
Mm.
Let's just enjoy that for a second. That's
Mhm.
okay too. So all that to say, the past has value. It's what you've done. It marks who you are to this point. And that's something to just sit in and say, oh, that was good. Or that was bad.
Mhm.
And to just, let's look on it. And the future has infinite opportunity. And you get to decide, hey, is this going to be better than yesterday? Is it going to have near limitless value? Or is tomorrow going to be, hey, yesterday kind of sucked. I'm going to make it worse. All right. You get to decide that. And the nice thing about the future is you get to set a good portion of that for yourself. Not all of it, but it gives you the opportunity to believe that there is more value coming and that you're not just stuck with what you've already had. So, that's the brain things that happened to me in the last little bit. I know that Joe here, I know he's only had 20 years, so it's a little bit shorter time to have that past
A little bit.
amalgamation. But
Mhm.
that means he has so much more future to look forward to. So I'm going to pass it forward to him and see what he has to say.
That's very, very kind of you, Joe. Thank you. And great insight. I love what you're talking about, that it is okay to take a break. It is okay to, to have an accomplishment, to celebrate that accomplishment, to take a rest and, get ready for the next step. There's it's very interesting to me. And Saule, I know you're a car guy, and you're here with us in the chat. I hope you're still here with us. But I like to look at our accomplishments are kind of like our odometer reading on a car, and our goals and what we're working towards is kind of like our speedometer on a car. Right? So like how are we working towards things, right? That's kind of like the speedometer. That's showing us how fast we're going. It's like we're setting goals, we're moving forward, we're doing all this kind of stuff. And then the accomplishment is kind of like our odometer. It shows how many miles we've gone. It shows what we've been to. We can even, I always get these notifications from Google Maps about like, hey, like check your timeline. This is where you went. And I'm like, wow, I went all over the place, you know? And but that's kind of how that works. So one thing that I've seen happen to some people, and it's fine if they do this, but I always wonder, and that is like when someone has a situation where they do accomplish something really big, they accomplish something awesome and amazing and whatever, and then they just at that point they stop and they don't work toward anything anymore. And they've, maybe they've earned it. They've earned an early retirement or whatever, right? And then they want to enjoy the trappings of that. They want to enjoy their life, and that's totally fine. They can totally do that. But I always wonder in the back of my head, like, did they have anything more that they could have done? And I wonder that for myself too, like, I mean, I don't have any massively huge accomplishments to look back on yet, but you know, I always try to think, okay, yes, I did this thing. I placed this level at, in swimming, or I was the number 2 percussionist in the state of Michigan, or, like I made it onto the Spartan drum line, and what, these things are accomplishments, and I can look back at these things and be like, okay, these are things that I'm proud of, and that's great. But then the question I would have for myself is, okay, does that mean I'm done? I don't know. Am I done in that field? Maybe. Maybe it's time to move to another field. Maybe it's time to continue in this same field. And to me, I have written up on my whiteboard in my room, and I look at it almost every day, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't even really remember the exact wording, which you'd think I would because it's written there. and I look at it all the time. But you know, to live your dream is to work constantly in the arena of your dream. So like if you have a dream for something, like and you have a goal, like to live that is to be working towards it, is to be working at it. That's living your dream. Not necessarily just accomplishing it, because an accomplishment to me is momentary. Like, oh, I accomplished this. Ryan and I, the first album that he and I produced, it took a long time. We worked at it. There was all kinds of struggle involved. There was all kinds of crazy, we didn't have equipment. We didn't have, there was all kinds of stuff that went into that project. And then when we accomplished it, it was really awesome. But then in that moment, we got to choose. Okay, are we done? Is that it for us? Or are we going to keep moving forward? And both of us decided, hey, that was when we decided to form our company, Black Static and Swerve. And that was when, after that first project was when we actually were like, okay, this is a great starting point to move things forward. And then a couple years after that, he started releasing stuff under the name Static P. And now many of you know how he's grown from there, and it's been great. And I've been happy to support in any way I possibly can to help him succeed, and do whatever I can. It's been wonderful. But it's interesting. Sometimes, like you were talking about, Strawberry Paste, that an accomplishment is just a step towards a greater accomplishment. Right now, I'm working on a construction project. We're building a studio. We're building a living space for Ryan. We're building a studio, all this stuff, right? And I look at it, I have zero experience in construction. I'm just there helping and doing what I'm told. And I'm not a professional construction person, and that's totally fine. But to me, it's an accomplishment when I put something together correctly, even if it's just one little tiny part of a wall. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did it right. That's cool. And it's an accomplishment for me because I don't have a lot of experience in that. But that one little accomplishment of building that one little part is just one piece of the greater accomplishment of finishing the project. So the question that I tend to ask myself in those moments where I accomplish something is, okay, am I done? Or is there still something to work towards? And every one of those little accomplishments along the way was critical to the success as a whole. Each wall that we build, each piece of lumber that we cut, each nail that we put in, that's an accomplishment in a way. But it all is leading toward the final goal of having that studio built. And what's that studio for? The studio isn't just to have a studio built. The studio's there so we can create more music projects. So each one of these things is a step toward greater accomplishment. And, Ryan and I have talked, and, we've talked as a company at Black Static and Swerve. It's like, I don't know if we're ever going to be done. I think we're just going to continue going and hopefully hand things on to people who come later and just, help people make music that has a good message and continue to grow and continue to move forward. And then, I don't know, I can imagine myself going at this until my body finally gives out. And that would be fine. But so anyway, I hope some of that makes sense. But yeah, each accomplishment is worth celebrating. Each time that we do something and we accomplish something new, or we make steps in the right direction, or we have a breakthrough moment and we achieve something, it's worth celebrating. And it's worth taking a break and looking back and, maybe reminiscing over all the struggles and maybe reminiscing over all the different things we had to do, the good times, the bad times, the ugly times, and everything, right? And to pat ourselves on the back and congratulate ourselves for that job that we did. But then once that break is over, are we ready to reset and take the next step? That's a question that sits in my mind a lot, and hopefully that's something that you can answer for yourself as well, Strawberry Paste. And man, I really thank you so much for bringing this up, because this is a topic that gets me fairly excited, because I like accomplishing things. I like that feeling of accomplishment, but it doesn't take long before I'm like, okay, what's next? What's the next step? Now that I've accomplished this, what does this set up for me to do next? And then things can get really exciting. So anyway, hopefully some of that makes sense. Joe, did you have anything else? Or Princess, did you have anything to say about this topic? Oh, looks like Princess has something to say.
Yes, I do. I have a few things to say, actually.
All right. Well, a few things.
Sorry.
Not just a thing.
Yep, and Joe, of course, sees my great segue as I write down my notes in a location that just so happen they can see for
Hmm.
ease of me. We are starting with a quote that many of you may recognize from Kung Fu Panda and Master Oogway, or
Mm.
if not, that's totally fair. Either way, it's a great quote. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. But today is a gift. And that's why we call it the present.
Mm.
Because it's interesting, there's a dichotomy of the value of the past and the value of the future. But I think what's probably the most valuable time of all is the present. Because the past is the past. It's what it is, it's what it's done. And at one point, it was the present. And even at one point, it was the future. But it went from future to present to past.
Mm.
And this moment in the present will eventually be the future, or will eventually be the past, because the future will come to be the present into the past. And so, as long as you have a perspective of balance between all of them, if you're so focused on the present that you have no concept of the future and you're not planning, and you have no interest in, paying attention to anything of the past, you're going to probably run into some problems that other
Mm.
people have ran into before, where things don't go well because you didn't plan for things. Uh, a more easy example would be like food. Oh, I don't have any food in the house because I didn't go grocery shopping, but I'm hungry right now. you know, Maybe an
Mhm.
hour passes. I'm hungry like an hour ago. I should really eat something, but there's still nothing in the house because I still haven't gone to get anything.
Mhm.
Um, but the point of that really is that major accomplishments, you know, they happen through the work that happens in the present. It's working towards the future, usually with a plan or a thought in mind, because we are thankfully able to do such things. And it's usually built upon the past, other things that people have done. If you look at the way that things evolve and change, we've gone into an era where the things that, people were pioneering are now in their more golden age of, hey, now we have it. Like for people for 3D printing. 3D printing used to be only something that like very few people could do. And then it became more open when modeling programs became free, or at least one part of it became free, but it was very hard to use. And so then a generation came along and was like, hey, we're going to figure this stuff out. We're going to make tutorials and we're going to have all these things so that people know how to do these things. And now the kids that are, 10 years or 5 years younger than them, they've been built off those. They've watched all those tutorials. That's where they started. And so
Mhm.
now they're able to come up with all of these imaginative things that, many people would have to be that were in that previous generation would have to go looking up the tutorials for and figuring out how it fits together because that wasn't their starting place. Like a race. If you start at a different location, and you can only run a certain length, if someone starts 50 miles ahead of you,
Mhm.
it may be impossible for you to ever catch up to them because of where they started with the knowledge that they have. Which is
Mhm.
why it was really interesting you said, in the last, we stand on the shoulders of giants. but we see not the value of their struggles, only the results of their success. And in some ways that's true, and in some ways that's false because we have history class.
Mhm.
And different things have different history. And we're really lucky to be in an age where people can go and look at the history and understand the struggles. It might not be that they do, and we're not going to know every single detail because we're not them, but you can understand the struggles. One of the big things that I remember in school was learning about the history of science because, as you may or may not remember, I am a scientist.
Mhm.
Woohoo! I like science. But there's like the central dogma, which is basically that DNA goes to RNA, goes to protein. That's the basics of how life gets made through cells, blueprint stuff, right? But, at first that had to even be discovered that there was such a thing that would actually be the blueprints to life, you know, and the struggle of that. Then there was the struggle of, hey, this is what it is, and other people being like, no, that doesn't fit, or, that. But then also, once that became like it was DNA to RNA to protein, well, there was life or lack of life, viruses, that were able to reverse transcribe from RNA to DNA to go back to RNA to go to,
Mm.
proteins, which totally breaks the system, right?
Mhm.
And so instead of saying, well, no, they just must be using some funkier something, they had to actually, fight against what had been set as precedent to prove, hey, there's actually an enzyme or a particular molecule that actually functions in a way that allows RNA to, as best as it can, because it's not exact, become back into DNA to rewrite itself in the DNA language rather than in the RNA language. So, I mean, in that sense of learning in history, there's so much, and it's somewhat on the steps of the past, and sometimes you have to go against the past completely.
Mm. Mhm.
You have to go against what precedent was set because just because a way can be done doesn't mean that it's the best. And it's not that it's they were trying to make it harder. They probably just didn't know,
Mhm.
or they were doing it for certain reasons or all that. And it's, kind of interesting in that way of research,
Mhm.
and that kind of branched down to a few other things. For one, reminds me because you're speaking about video games. Toby Fox, who I'm sure many of you who listen probably know that name. If you don't, he was the creator of Undertale and has made music for, I think, a few other things, including Pokemon Scarlet and Violet music, I believe. He helped work on some of that.
Mm.
But he was known for Undertale, which, was a small indie game that he basically made himself. And it grew up to be something huge that people were really interested in it. And then once Undertale was done, people were like, "Are you gonna make another game? Is it gonna be like Undertale? Are you getting Undertale too?" And, I can't find it online, I'm sure it's somewhere, I might be ad-libbing, or I could be wrong, but either way, the words that I remember are pretty cool, which is, "I can't give you the same experience that Undertale gave you." Right? You've already experienced it, I can't give you that. I can't make another game and say that it'll give you that experience. But what I can do is I could give you a different experience in a different game. And in that sense, it's a step forward. He's using what he learned and using it to make something new. But it's not necessarily even that that game will be better than Undertale. It might not be for many people.
Mhm.
Undertale might be the pinnacle of, a game for some people. So, you know, the most important may not always be the future. At some point, it might become the past in that sense.
Mhm.
But the only time that you ever actually get something done is in the present.
Yes.
Uh, and there's one last thing that I really, well, I guess two things on my notes. One is things are never really done, they're just due. And so then you give it to the next person to carry that flag into the future. It's like the race idea, but, instead it's, baton passing somebody like, hey, I've ran my race. Here, continue on. Let's keep running until we finish all that we can discover about this, that, or the other thing. You know,
Mhm.
in this world, we can't accomplish everything there is to accomplish. No human could probably even withstand or comprehend every single thing of everything, right? We have to stand upon what knowledge is given to us. Otherwise, we make our new starting point right where everyone else started originally with nothing. So it kind of takes having that to have the future and the world that we have. And then I do have one thing that I do want to read. It is a little bit biblical, but if you're not religious, that's fine. If you kind of read it in that sense of poetry, you know, you can still get good nuggets out of it, I believe. But I think it's at least worth sharing. It's known as the Archbishop Oscar Romero prayer, A Step Along the Way. I don't think it's actually by him, I believe is what I've been told, but that's just how it's been known. So, it helps now and then to step back and take a long view. The kingdom is not only beyond our efforts, it is even beyond our vision. We accomplish in our lifetime only a tiny fraction of the magnificent enterprise that is God's work. Nothing we do is complete, which is a way of saying that the kingdom always lies beyond us. No statement says all that could be said. No prayer fully expresses our faith. No confession brings perfection. No pastoral visit brings wholeness. No program accomplishes the church's mission. No set of goals and objectives includes everything. This is what we are about. We plant the seeds that will one day grow. We water the seeds already planted, knowing that they hold future promise. We lay foundations that will need further development. We provide yeast that provides far beyond our capabilities. We cannot do everything, and there's a sense of liberation in realizing that. This enables us to do something, and to do it very well. It may be incomplete, but it is a beginning, a step along the way, an opportunity for the Lord's grace to enter and to do the rest. We may never see the end results, but that is the difference between the master builder and the worker. We are the workers, not master builders, ministers, not messiahs. We are prophets of a future not of our own. Amen.
Mm. Mm. I love that. That is so great.
It's really great. And again, for those who may not be religious, you can read between the lines to understand a lot of the good nuggets in here of, nothing we do brings perfection, or, no set objectives or goals includes everything. Nothing you can say in a full sentence will ever fully express what you want to say.
Mm.
Like, you can sum up, a very, deep set of sentiments called I love you, but even the words I love you can never really truly express all of the things that go into meaning I love you. So I apologize for taking so much time, but I will pass it back over to the Joes.
Oh, that was lovely. And Princess, you shared that prayer with me at one point, and I love that because it is so fitting. We don't always see the results of our efforts. We don't always know where it's going to go. We just work and we try and we do our best. But it's so true that we take what's been given to us, we work with that. Like as you said in your topic, strawberry paste, that we stand on the shoulders of giants. We stand on others' accomplishments. And Princess had such a great example with scientific research and how all that can we take what we've been given and we move it forward, and sometimes we have to look back and maybe change some things and break it and try again to innovate, but we take that information and we use it and we move forward with it. It's awesome. And but then we do our job and we may not ever see the end result. We might have a bunch of accomplishments along the way, but then what's going to be the big, huge splash in our field may come generations later. But our little part that we played to move that forward was critical in that whole process. So that's awesome. Joe, did you have anything else you wanted to say about this?
I mean, not really, just to respond to people in the chat, though. I mean, in terms of even in the moment and the things that we're doing right now, it wasn't like me being here wasn't something I thought of one day. I was like, you know what? Don't worry, Wednesday. That's where I want to be. That's what I want to do. That's the thing I wanted, right? Like I thought, man, this Static P guy is really cool and he does some great things. It was never a thought that, oh, we'd call it up, hey, can you cover for me on this other day? Or whatever. That wasn't a thought that ever crossed my mind. It was, hey, that's really cool and amazing, and I like what that is. I want to do something similar. I want to walk that path on my own. And I remember several years ago, before Don't Worry Wednesday started back up, I remember messaging Ryan like, Ryan, or not Ryan, Stike, how how do you feel if I like just took over this idea, because he had done it with a friend of his before, and I'm like, I want to do this because it's not running anymore, and I want to help people. And he's like, oh, that's really cool. We're starting next week anyway, but really cool if you want to do that. They're like, oh, okay, well I'm gonna do it anyway. Um,
Mhm.
and so for those of you who are in chat, like, it'd be really cool to be on this one day or whatever. Like, start now. Like, not necessarily being here right now, obviously, because we're in the middle of something, but start working towards that now. Like, hey, you want to do something like this? Just do it. Like, you don't have to be on here to make the same impact and make your own perspective. Like, you can share that anyway. You don't need us to do that.
Mhm.
We're just over here being yahoos as it is. All right. But you get to determine that. You have an infinite future in front of you that you can choose from. And it doesn't have to require you waiting on other people. It could be like, it's Friday night. I've got a webcam and I want to share a little perspective that might help someone. All right. Because you have a life experience. You've done things already, I would assume, if you are alive and have lived a few years.
Mm.
All right. And to an extent, you know the good things that you've done and you know the bad things that you've done. And you can bring that perspective to other people. My parents like to tell me, and I've read the quote for a long time before, about how much you grow up in just a few years. And I forget who it was, but I went off to college when I was like 18, and I came back at 25, and I was just so surprised by how much my parents learned in those 5 years. They grew in such wisdom while I was gone. And it's just kind of this idea that as you mature and as you learn things, you start to recognize all the things that you had been taught and you had learned, and your parents were there telling you all along, and you're like, oh yeah, that was probably a good idea when I didn't listen. Um, that kind of an idea of, especially because I know that this audience is sometimes really younger, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of growth happens in your late teens, early 20s, where you can have a bunch of life experience. And so I want you to, hopefully, for everyone out there who's looking at the value of their past and their future, um, hey, you've got the next few years in front of you to learn and experience and grow and to engage in that so you can make the most value out of that time. And maybe it's just surrounding yourself with somebody who helps you control your swearing habit, or helps you with trying out new things in a good way, right? Like, I love hanging out with Joe here because he's like, yeah, let's just do the thing. We'll go do the thing, and it's going to be new and it's going to be great. And sometimes it's things I wouldn't do, like, say, record a show at 6 a.m. because I'm going to be really tired. I don't know why that specific reference came in my head right there, but
Yeah, no idea.
no idea. All right, but having those people, just surrounding yourself with people who are going to help you make the future a great place, is a great place to start. And you don't have to wait until you get on Don't Worry Wednesday to do that. You can just go ahead and do that right now.
Hmm?
That's all I had to add.
That's very
So
true.
chat thinks.
Yes. Yeah, so like thank you. That show was a lot of fun to watch. It was a lot of fun to make too. It was a lot of fun to watch Joe be really exhausted, tired first thing in the morning. Oh, we had
Whole
a lot of
different
fun
level of
times.
energy.
Yep, yep. It was crazy, but I appreciate you saying that, Joe. I appreciate you saying that about me. It's true. Kyle, Ryan's brother, has also said that. He's like, we think a lot alike, except you like take action a lot faster. And I'm like, well, hopefully that's a good thing. But I mean, if we're gonna do something, let's do it, right? But
Mhm.
but I'll never forget. I mean, Joe says that about me, that I'm that way. I remember those text messages that I had back and forth with you, and when we were talking about doing that show together. And I was like, so like when you want to get started? And you're like, how about Monday? And I was like, oh, that's like 2 days from now, man. Like you want to start immediately? Okay, no problem. Let's go. But it is cool. But if you're working towards something, if you're moving towards a goal, why not start? If you're thinking about a goal, why not get into motion? I mean, if you have enough information to get started, why not start? And a lot of times our fears will hold us back, or sometimes our complacency holds us back. Sometimes our accomplishments, lead us to a complacent spot in our life. And then we're just like, hey, it's kind of nice to hang out here. And we can kind of plateau a little bit. But the excitement and the drama and the crazy, I mean, our life is full of peaks and valleys, right? But when we stop, then plateau, and it can be kind of deadening and maybe a little bit souring and whatever. Now I will say this, being in the valleys isn't always a fun experience. That can be really hard, but to me, that drama, that action, that all that stuff that happens in those moments is more valuable to me than if I was just sitting still and not doing anything. And so I really, really appreciate this topic, and I really appreciate your insight, Joe, and Princess, yours as well. Like, you guys are so awesome. I'm so glad that you guys are here because, half the time I'm trying to get my head wrapped around something, and you guys are able to just go and, talk about a whole bunch of awesome stuff. So thank you so much. But yeah, strawberry paste, thank you for this topic. Thank you for sharing it with us and for allowing us to talk about it. And hopefully some of that makes some sense. And if you have any more specific details, or if you want to go into this deeper, feel free to submit a topic. You know where it's at, but I will say for everyone else, it's don'tworrywednesday.com. You can click the submit a topic button and fill it out, and we'd be happy to do your topic. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, so let's move on to our next one. What do you say? Do we have one that we
I
can do
like it.
next? You like it? You like that idea? I like that idea. Oh boy, I think I see which one it's gonna be. I'm gonna reload this tab, but I'm a little nervous now. Oh boy. you're I can't hear you, Princess. I'm sorry.
I wasn't even speaking out loud. I was literally just mouthing it
Oh,
to
you
you.
were just mouthing the words.
I was telling you it's gonna be okay. It's
It's
okay.
gonna be okay. All right, all right. I thought you were saying like, go on, go do it. Like,
No, go on is this motion. It's
oh,
okay is
I
this
gotta
motion.
see. I gotta put you on here
'Cause
for this, right? So like, go.
no, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Uh-uh.
Okay, fine, fine. All right. So go on is this motion. and it's gonna
And
be
then
okay
it's
as this
okay as
one,
this motion.
which is
Yep,
kind.
like
I mean,
patting a head.
they're really close to the same
No,
gesture. They.
one is very much got the wrist involved like a mixer, and the other one is up and down.
I don't know.
Gotcha.
It might be the
Okay.
perspective, but I
Circle.
thought they were the same thing, Joe. Too. So,
Also, when it's go on, it's like this versus this.
Okay.
Okay.
Go on or head pat. I gotcha. Okay. So this was
I'll
meant to
try to
be a
make it more clear
consoling.
in the future.
You're just fine. Solely, thank you for joining us. And yes, and I owe you a message or two or three or six or seven, and your ideas sound wonderful. And so yes, we will be talking. I will DM you, return that message. So you're awesome, and thanks for being here, man. But anyway, all right. So we got our next topic. This is from Vinvix. Is called Booked and Raged. I'm interested to hear what this has to say. Oh boy, let me get it all set up, and then I can get it up on the screen for you guys. But yes, so Booked and Rage from Vinvix, and Princess, whenever you're ready, you can read it aloud.
I said I wanted to be present, then remembered my weekdays are fully scheduled from 7 to 5.
Hmm.
Hopefully, you can forgive my misconception. And yeah, that's our school schedule. Makes me want to go rage. Thanks. From Vinvix. I don't know if
Oh,
they had some other message they sent, but I definitely didn't receive what other message they sent. I've looked at all the places I've got available, but we can try our
okay,
best.
okay. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I said I wanted to be present, and then I remembered my weekdays are fully scheduled. Hopefully you forgive my misconception. Yeah, that's our school schedule. So yeah, I definitely understand what it feels like to be booked. I understand what it feels like to have a full schedule. And it's weird. Like anytime I have free time in my schedule, for some reason I try and put something in there. It's maybe not the best of habits. You know, we were talking in the last topic about the importance of resting. Um, and maybe I have a bad habit of of not allowing myself to rest. Um, but anyway, Vinvix, I totally can relate to you, and also can relate to saying, "Hey, I want to do this thing," and then committing myself to do it, and then forgetting that I had a whole bunch of other stuff going on, and I needed to be there. And then, you start juggling things, and it can be confusing, and then you get stressed out, and it can cause anger for sure because you want to do these other things, but then you realize, oh my gosh, I'm already booked for this other stuff. And it can add to some tension. It can add to definitely some rage for sure. I mean, Joe's got his rage face on. Look at that. Look at that. Oh man, he's ready. He's ready to talk about this topic. I can tell.
yeah. That's what that face was.
That's what
So
that one
ready,
was.
so
So
prepared.
ready. Awesome. So then I'm just gonna get out of your way before I get
Okay,
hit with something.
that's right. That's right.
Put up your dukes. I ain't got no dukes. Awesome. So Joe, whenever you're ready. Are
All
are you
right.
ready, or do you want me to fill some space,
Yeah.
some time?
No. We're good. We're good. We're gonna
All right.
we're gonna talk even if we're not ready.
All right. Cool.
Also, it's good to see you back, Hots.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, yeah. So, thanks for your question. Obviously, this is a topic that hits all of us at different stages, right? So, Joe talks about how he's got a lot of things going on. Hots says they've only got things going on Monday through Wednesday. Like, there are going to be times in your life when you are booked, you are raged, you have a lot going on. And this is a time in order for you to take a look and say, what what am I going to do with this, right? Can I avoid some of it? Like, how much of this is self-inflicted and how much of this is it's part of being the part of what I need to succeed in the way I want to go? And those two things, well, they sound very similar, have very different results. It is very easy to be a yes person, but hard to necessarily fulfill all of those obligations. So like today, there's a great example because I was almost super late because I worked today. And normally I work from 7 to 3. Then I normally have esports practice from 3 until 5. But I had to cancel that today because I had a curriculum meeting from 3 to 5. And then from there, I had a athletics booster meeting from 6 until 7. And so you can see where I'm going with this. And then now I got here for this, which was like 8:30-ish till whenever. Right? And you can fully book your days. And if you are ready for that, it can be very rage-inducing. However, it's also can be quite a joy, and it can be quite fulfilling. And this is where we get back to that idea of rest and how important that is. All right? The difference between being booked and enraged and being booked and fulfilled is whether or not you are giving yourself time to rest. All right? When we talked about taking that moment to look back and say, those accomplishments I just did, those were good. All right? That's the fulfilled. That's the, oh man, I did this thing. It was fantastic. I am glad I did those things. But it requires that you take a moment to just relax, take a breath, and see the good that you've done. Because if you don't, if you're just booking your day every day, all of the time, all right, you don't have time to look back and go, that was a really cool thing that I did, because you're too busy worrying about the other thing that's right in front of you. It's kind of back at that future question we asked. You're so busy focused on this part of the future that's coming up in 30 seconds is frightening to me because I haven't had time to prepare. I haven't had time to rest. I haven't had time to do anything other than panic about what's coming in the next 10 seconds. Yeah, why wouldn't you rage? That's a common response. So you got to ask yourself a question. All right. Are you taking on too much? Are you saying, I have to do this thing because? Like, do you really? And you're like, how dare you ask that question? How dare I say, is that really of value? Well, yeah, it's important to ask. I ask myself this all the time. And it hurts, right? Especially when it's something you enjoy or it's something you love. All right. So more recently, I coach esports, but also, hey, esports, is it worth my time? All right. Is it providing the value I need it to do, or is it not? And this isn't me saying don't play video games. I love video games. I've been part of communities that are surrounding video games. It's a great place to interact and grow, and it can fulfill that mission. But if you aren't willing to say, hey, is this actually creating that value? You might find yourself starting to hate those things. And I bring this up because I've done it with something else. All right. Joe brought up, we'll go back to the beginning. Joe brought up the idea that I was a golf pro. I used to play golf a lot. During the summer of my senior year of high school, I played like 54 holes of golf a day, every day for 3 months.
Whoa.
All right. So I loved to play, and truly, you cannot play that much of anything because we're talking like 8 hours a day for a long time. You
For those
cannot
that
do.
don't know, 18 holes is like going through the whole long course that most golf courses are. Some are 9.
Yeah, it's
Compared
about
to what, 56? Is that what you said?
yeah,
I don't remember.
54. So 18 times 3. But
3 times through a
So-
course. Was it the same
yeah.
course, or did you go to different courses?
yeah, you would just play the same course. In this instance, the
Okay.
only way that I could even achieve that is because my uncle owned that golf course.
Ah,
Because
yes.
otherwise that would be obscenely expensive on top of all of it.
Yes.
So when I get back to that rage idea, so I was doing this, and this was all in an effort to get me prepared for my degree to be a golf professional. And I had to do it. And so I got to the end of that months and months and months of playing and practicing and doing that thing. And guess what? When I finally got there, I asked myself the question, was it worth it? And I realized in that moment, no, it really wasn't.
Oh no.
um, and so, because I could have kept playing, I could have practicing, and I could have raged, right? That was another option. Instead, I said, oh, shoot, this isn't worth it at all. I'm done. I just stopped. And then I had a bunch of free time. It was amazing. And so it's just important to ask yourself, like, hey, is it worth it? And you can come up and say no. Like, it could be a huge part of your life. For me, it was part of my degree. And, that's an interesting thing to feel like asking yourself, like, hey, this is kind of required for you to graduate from the school for the degree you're going into. You're saying that that's not worth it. And I'm like, yeah, kind of not. And so you gotta have that honest conversation with yourself, because most of the time I can't have that for you. Like, I can't ask Joe, your emotion, how are, you're feeling not good about this, so you should stop doing that. Because you know what most people's response to that is? I'll show you. I do enjoy that thing. I can take that.
I do enjoy that thing I just complained about for an hour.
Yep. And I mean, in some instances, yes, they do actually enjoy that thing, and that's good. But our response is going to be, yeah, no, I'm going to do the opposite of what you say. But if you have that conversation with yourself, at least then you can blame yourself later, which sounds bad. But it's this idea of, all right, the rage that I'm feeling, all right, can I avoid it? Because there's the other half of this, right? So I've gone down the rabbit hole of, you did something dumb to yourself. What about the other side? What about something that's good? What about something that you need? And then you rage. What happens then? Well, I might suggest to you that perhaps that rage has a purpose. All right? Things that make you angry, sometimes that's good. I know it sounds like angry people are not nice, and that's not something you want to be. But it turns out that you should be angry at some things, right? Like, if somebody's kicking dogs and like punching children or something, like, that should make you angry. It should make you rage, and that's a good thing. And so if you're spending a bunch of time working and working and working and grinding and grinding and grinding, and you start to feel like, oh, like, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe it is something that's like, this is super frustrating and this is a problem, but I got to keep going because it's frustrating. I don't want to deal with this forever, right? Like, I don't want to keep dealing with this problem that has plagued me for the last 3 months. I got to keep going. I've got to spend this time figuring this out so that it's not worse later, right? I've got to put in that time and grind through school so that I don't have to worry about, finding my way into that school I want later. Or I'm grinding through the job right now so that I can pay this bill and not have to suffer for it later. All right, there are those rages, and the rage that you feel in those moments isn't, I hate this thing that I'm doing. It's, there is a problem that faces me and I need to resolve it. And so having that conversation with yourself of, am I raging about the thing that I'm doing? or is my rage directed at a problem I'm trying to solve? It's really going to help you to deal with how much of your time is booked. So, I've probably talked a little bit too much on that, but I have Joe and Princess here who are wise people. They're much better at time management than me. Joe often has to text me of like, "Are you actually showing up? Because you said you would, but you overslept your alarm." Zzz.
Oh,
So you know.
stop it. I am not all that great at time management. I've learned to have to be great at it, And there, it's interesting, Joe. Thank you so much for your perspective, and I love what you're saying about having that conversation with yourself, because sometimes we have to ask ourselves those tough questions, like, is this worth it? Is what I'm doing worth it? Now, in your case, Vinvix, you said that's your school schedule from 7 to 5, right? And so that's kind of a requirement, right? I don't know if you're a student or a teacher or what it is that is going on, but if that's your school schedule, I would imagine that that's probably going to be one of your top priorities, is to handle those things, to go to school, to study, or to teach, or to whatever it is that's involved with school. That's going to be a priority. And so we have to sometimes take a look at what we're doing and say, all right, what exactly needs to stay in? What needs to get out? What are all these things that I need to do? What are the things that I'm committed to do? And then how do I figure out those priorities? And there are times, like Joe was just talking about, you might be doing something for a long time and you might commit most of your days. Like Joe was talking about being a golf pro. He committed a lot of time to playing golf, to honing his skills, to doing these things to become a golf professional. And then looked at it. It was like, is this worth it? And he was able to tell himself no after all that time he'd invested into it. And that says a lot. When a person can invest that much time and go down that path and then discover this isn't where I want to be, and then have the mental fortitude to switch directions, I have a lot of respect for that. Because I know a lot of people who kind of get into, I live in Michigan. This is a lot of the stuff, at least when I was growing up, there's a lot of manufacturing jobs all over where I was growing up, right? And so people would get into their manufacturing job and then they would hate it. But they had gotten to a point where they had invested so much of their life into that job that they couldn't stop. Because they were like, I got to put in my years until my retirement, because like there's all this, like I can't switch professions now because I have these bills to pay. It's kind of like Joe was talking about, you might have to go do something that you don't necessarily want to do in order to pay your bills. That's a very real scenario. But when you're in a position where you can actually assess, okay, what's my life look like? Do I actually enjoy what I'm doing? Is this something that I can see a good result from? And if the answer is no, can you then switch directions? It can be really hard to do. It can be really hard to just say, nope, I'm turning now, and then go a different direction. Because sometimes we're so heavily invested in what it is that we're doing or what we have done already that we can't imagine. Like in my mind, I know that sometimes I've invested so much of my life into something, and then to switch directions feels like I'm throwing away all that time that I've invested. And that can be hard to face. I want to start with that. Joe, I have a lot of respect for you that you did that. You invested all that time, and then you were able to just look at it objectively and say, "Is this good?" No, I'm going to change directions and change directions. That that's very admirable. Um, but
Thanks,
then
Joe.
okay, what's that?
Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. Um, and so let's get on to the rage thing. So sometimes we've filled our schedule with a whole bunch of stuff, and now we're angry about it. I had to learn that anger, when we feel anger, a lot of times um we assign uh, the result of our anger to the feeling of anger. Now, where am I going with this? I'm not even making sense to myself. Okay, there's anger and there's aggression. Okay? Aggression is the action you take as a result of feeling angry. When we boil it down, anger is simply the heightened uh, feeling that I'm going to take some kind of action. And Joe talked about how I'm a person that takes action. Maybe I'm just really angry all the time. Because I just want to do something, right? Like, I'm a task-oriented person. I feel like I need to be doing something. But so, all right. When I'm putting things in my schedule, I have to have a priority list. And so, like, I keep a calendar. I keep my Google Calendar, right? And a lot of times I have reminders and I have things that I need to be doing. And I just recently got this task from Ryan's brother Kyle that my task is to sort through all of the current projects that we are doing as a company and prioritize them. What's going to make the biggest splash for us as a company? And then how can we move forward on those? And so I had to actually go through and prioritize all these different projects that we're working on and figure out, okay, what's going to be the best bang for our time, that we're doing here. And so I had to go through that exercise, and it can be really tough. But so the question I would have for you, Vinvix, is yes, Meow, Criminal Idol season 2 is a priority. It is. And it's a big project. It's a very, very long-term project. Because it's huge. I mean, there's 24 episodes or something. Was that it, Joe?
What are you
24.
asking me? Yes, maybe. It was a lot. No
Yeah,
spoilers.
there's a lot in there. And there's artwork to be done, and there's music to be done, and there's sound to be done, and we've got voice acting lines, and we've got production of that to be done. There's a lot of things to be done, and there's very few people to do it. So it probably will take some time to get out, but it is in process. It is working. We're working towards completing that. Um and so, but the question has to be, where am I spending my time? Is this necessary for me to do? And if it is, then that needs to fit in your calendar. If it's not, but it's something you just enjoy doing, then you can fit that in your calendar in the space after you put the high priority stuff in there, right? And so a lot of times I will try and fill my calendar and I'll be looking, okay, I've got this going on, I've got this going on, I've got this going on, and I need to spend this amount of time doing it, this amount of time doing it. And just the other day, I had a production day. So my work days consist of production or construction, basically. Or meetings. And so I'll either be in production mode where I'm working on music projects or, like Criminal Idol season 2 or different singles that I'm working on with Static P or different projects that I'm working on with other artists. And, and there's keeping my playing ability of all the different instruments I play. I've got to work on fundamentals for all that to keep my abilities in playing going. And so in a production day, what I will do is I will be like, okay, I need to do this, 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 and 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 this. And the list kind of just gets enormous, right? And I'm like, okay, so if I'm going to fit all this in today, I need to set 30-minute timers and work on this for 30 minutes and then move to the next thing for 30 minutes and then move to the next thing for 30 minutes and then move to the next thing for 30 minutes. And the thing is when I'm working toward goals like that and I'm setting timers, it's pretty amazing. Now, sometimes I can imagine for some people working like that might be demoralizing. But for me, when I set a timer, I'm like, okay, I only have 30 minutes and I'm watching the time tick away. And I'm like, okay, I got to get going. I got to get as much done as I can in this 30 minutes. And so it actually energizes me a little bit to continue to go faster and to try and work harder because I know I only have this little bit of time. But then, okay, now then what about resting? What about relaxing? What about entertainment? What about gaming? What about all these things? Because there comes a time when we can burn out of the tasks that we're doing. And I definitely reached that point. Monday was a production day, and I set all these 30-minute timers of all these different things I wanted to do, and I accomplished almost all of them. I was really close, and then, man, by the time about 6:30, 7 o'clock rolled around in the evening, I was just like, done. And I'm like, nope, I am done. Like, I am exhausted. And at that point, I couldn't go any further. And I was like, okay, time to just shut down and sit and relax. And I think I probably put on Netflix for a little bit or something, right? And just kind of chilled. But all those things that we do, they can be great. It can be wonderful to fill your schedule with stuff. Because then you feel like you're doing stuff, right? But where's the room left for the unexpected? Have you ever had something happen that you didn't expect? Have you, Joe?
No, I expect everything.
You expect
Yeah.
everything. Man, you're so amazing. Hopefully by
Yeah,
the
yeah,
time I'm
yeah.
your age, I can be as good as you. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it comes with the age, Joe. When you get here,
it's, when I get
then you'll
there,
understand. Yeah,
I'll
yeah, yeah,
I'll
you'll
understand.
understand.
When I get to be 29 like you,
Yep.
that's it. Perfect. Um,
I didn't expect that.
what?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Back to the topic. Okay, anyway, sometimes unexpected stuff happens. I've learned this in my short 20 years that I've been alive, right? It's so funny. My age keeps going down. Every once in a while, stuff happens and you have to focus on it. You guys know a lot of my story, those of you who have been here. Um, you know, sometimes a bunch of stuff hits the fan and you have to deal with it. And everything else kind of gets shoved aside. And you're in it. You're in the middle of it. And it can be frustrating and hard and it can be consuming and everything, right? So those are kind of like those things that if we don't leave some room for it in our life. Now, here's the thing. How do we ever know? We don't. But we can plan to have the unexpected happen. We can just understand as we're going through our day, hey, anything's possible. Anything's possible. You could get a phone call, and that could change your life instantly. All bets are off. You get a phone call, you get an email, you get a text message, whatever, and everything can change in a moment. And so then what do? Well, you focus on that, and anything that you've committed to. Sometimes, man, I do my best if something comes up and I have all these other commitments to make sure I tell everybody that, hey, this happened, and so now I've got to do this. But every once in a while, that thing becomes such a focus that I can't. I can't contact everybody, or I can't, whatever. And then the apologies come later, right? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This happened, this happened, this happened, and I'm so sorry I dropped the ball. Because it happens. It's okay. That's all part of life. But one of the things that inside me, I try my hardest to be a person who does what they say they're going to do. I try. And I think we all do. And sometimes stuff comes up and we can't. But we do our best. But in those moments, the stress can happen. The anger can rise up. And we can rage. Just like you're talking about in your topic, Vinvix. And it can be an interesting time. But here's the thing. When you start to feel that anger welling up, you start to feel that rage of all the stress coming from all the things you've booked yourself to do. And I remember when we were talking about setting appointments. This was a sales job that I had. And he said, double book yourself. And to me, I had a hard time wrapping my brain around this. He's like, double book yourself. I'm like, why? He's like, because sometimes things are going to cancel. People are going to cancel. So you know that you're a real performer in this profession when you are canceling on them and rescheduling. And I'm like, whoa, because in my mind, I'm like, I want to be a person who does what they say they're going to do. And to me, to double book myself on purpose so I could call a person and cancel on them, that just seemed weird to me. But I understood where he was getting at, because he was like saying, people are going to call and cancel on you. So if you don't have something else booked in that moment, then you just might lose that time completely. So double book so you can do that. Now I don't do that job anymore. And I'm thankful for that, because that's a lot of stress. But when you start to feel that anger rise up in you, all that is the heightened sense to take action. So if we don't take action, what happens is that causes stress, that causes higher blood pressure, that causes more tension within us. When we feel that, can we take some kind of action? Because that will be like a pressure release valve on that sensation. When we feel that rage starting to come up, we're feeling that stress, feeling all that stuff. Sometimes, for me, what I've learned is I need to go do something physical. I need to go punch my heavy bag, or I need to go do some kind of exercise training, or I need to do whatever. I can remember long inspections days where I'd be out driving around taking pictures of houses, and people would be coming out and yelling at me and being like, "What are you doing here?" Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, your mortgage company, they sent me out to see if you're still living here, and be like, "Whoa, blah, blah." And they're always upset. And so it was really high stress. And so, like, all this tension and this anger would just build up. And I was so glad to get to the end of the day when I could go do martial arts, because I could go punch something. And Joe talked at the beginning of this topic. He was like, if you're punching kids, and I'm like, I used to do that in martial arts class. All the time. Oh my God, I was punching kids. I mean, not like punching them hard, but I'm like sparring with them, right? And so you're like, but then they'd stick me with an adult, and then I'd get my clock cleaned, they'd kick me in the face one time and I'd be out. Or like the time a 13-year-old girl like flattened me on the ground with a side kick. She caught me just right. Now, here's the thing. I think I was a brown belt at the time, and she was a 3rd-degree black belt. And, I'm an adult. I've got kids in the class, I'm an adult. And this 13-year-old girl, right, she's just, boom. Now, she was almost as tall as me. She was pretty big. And she was very, very well trained. And the way I jumped, I was going to do an aerial. I was going to do like a tornado round kick to her head. And as I was in my preparation, she just really fast side kicked me right in the chest. And I had already left the ground. And that side kick just, boom, laid me out flat on the ground. And then the next thing I remember is she was like looking down at me, like with her hand out, like to help me back up. And she just loved that moment. She's like, I just laid out an adult male, right? She was so excited. But, the point of that whole thing was, when you feel that rage, when you feel that tension start to rise, maybe it's time to go do something physical. Maybe it's time to go for a run, or, go punch the air. I've shadow boxed before, and that can really relieve a lot of stress. It can be really cool. But so Vinvix, I don't know if any of this is helping. It's time to fight people. Yes, Kat, it is time to fight people. I would encourage you, if you're going to fight someone, spar. Yes, do it in a controlled environment where you're trained or training or whatever. Yes, but to go do something physical to get that pressure release valve, because when we're getting angry, when we're getting stressed, when all this stuff is piling up, it's just a readiness to take action. And the more we avoid taking action as that feeling builds, it gets more and more tense and more difficult. And sometimes the action we need to take is physical action. We need to go do something physically. I know I'm a physically oriented person. If I sit too long without doing something physical, I will feel tension and stress build up. And so I have to go do something, whether it's pull-ups on my door frame or push-ups or, running in place or something. Otherwise, it can get the better of me. But anyway, I don't know. I could totally go on and on forever. I'm going to see, Joe, did you have anything else you wanted to say? Or Princess, did you have anything you wanted to say about this topic? Um, Joe, you're here. And
Yeah, I'm here.
you guys keep muting yourselves, and I see you over there laughing, but you're muted. And so I'm
What
like
would
the
you
only
prefer? We laugh out loud at you?
Yes.
I'm just laughing at you because reasons. I just don't want to cough in your ear all the time.
Oh, you're
I just
totally
don't want
fine.
to interrupt.
Yeah,
Oh,
you have such
please.
wisdom,
Dude, I'm 20.
and
I don't have wisdom.
don't let anyone look
Do you
down
think
on
I
you.
don't have wisdom?
You're 23.
Yeah. Do you think I didn't have wisdom at the age of 20?
Correct.
I had the wisdom by like the age of like 10. I feel like. But
You did.
more
Mm,
accurately would be something reasonable would be the age of like 14 to 16. But
Mm-hmm.
even more reasonable than that would definitely be the age of 18. But
Yeah.
that's still earlier than 20.
Yeah. That's true. And I think wisdom depends on our life experience to some degree, I think, right?
For sure.
I mean,
mhm.
stuff that we've been through. I mean, I know people who are older than me that don't have similar life experiences. And it's tough to try and explain to them what I've gone through in some of the things that I've had to face. And, even like my parents, they're older than me, right? Not by much.
Oh, they are.
um,
I don't know that I agree with that, Rye. Just gonna say.
the LOL is important. Yes, don't mute it.
Production value.
Yes.
I don't know about that.
It is.
Ryan, welcome. Welcome to our show. I hope your travels are going well. Um, we
Man,
need
if
a
only
laugh track.
one of these times we should get static on here.
We should.
I think we really just should. I think that might go over well.
Oh, I think it
Yes.
would.
People
Totally.
might like that.
You should be on here sometime, Rye.
Yeah. uh
Yeah. I think other people were talking about being guests. Just Static B as a guest.
mhm.
That'd be great.
That's right. So, anyway, Joe, did you have anything more you wanted to say about this topic?
Maybe. Yeah, just say it right now that Static's come back. I was gonna say again, just really keep in mind that idea of having a loose hold on things. Is it the old? Is it Chicago? Hold on loosely. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know.
that's an old song. Anyway, it doesn't matter like the quantity or the quality of whatever you're holding on to or whatever you is giving you all of this energy. Like, be willing to sacrifice it, right? So, I mean, even if it is like a criminal idol too, even if it is those things that are like, hey, you look at it and like this is the most important thing. It's okay. You okay? um, sorry, I was looking at Joe here. It's okay to say, hey, look, some of this stuff, if it isn't achieving my main objective, axe it, slice it off, get rid of it. We could again talk about some biblical things like your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out, throw it away. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if it isn't achieving what you want it to do, get rid of it. So, all right, good luck on your flight. Travel safely.
Yes.
But yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, you have a life in front of you. You have, if we get back to the idea, you have a future. Don't throw away your future because of whatever the past has held for you. Even if it was good, right? Like, it could have been good past, and you're like, not worth, all right? Or something better, right? There's that limitless value thing we talked about before. So it's okay to say no to good things, to say yes to better things.
Mm.
And I hope you keep that in mind always. All right. It's okay to say no to good things, to say yes to better things. And I've had that. I know Joe's probably had that a few times. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna guess that Princess has. Maybe not. She makes great choices first try all the time, which is why she had wisdom at 16.
That's true.
But
That's very true.
but
Well,
that's
my
kind of
wisdom didn't come from bad decisions necessarily on my part.
They came from
she liked
things
it.
that came your way, experiences that were beyond your control.
Correct,
Mm-hmm.
largely.
Mm.
And then you make the best of it. Which is, I guess I could speak on this topic a little bit if that's if the floor is open.
Mm-hmm.
Or take the floor.
I mean, the best example that I have is I love my mom and I love my Oma dearly. They're wonderful. If you've ever been on a vacation with them, you would know that it's not much of a vacation sometimes because it's very much, okay, we're gonna go with this thing and then 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 with this thing. And
Oh my
then,
gosh.
something happens where all of a sudden a train is late by an hour and now the whole schedule's in mayhem. And it's like, okay, well, we're just gonna take this thing to try to get back on track and do that so we can still try and cram in everything that we're gonna do, even though we've lost an hour of time.
Mm.
you know and the thing is you could either get upset at it or you could take a deep breath and realize that life is going to be okay even if your schedule is booked full, and if you miss something, it's not the end of the world. What? It's not the end of the world if you're really busy and can't do all the things you want to do?
No.
What a conception
That
of
is
an
the end
idea.
of the
I don't
world.
know. What a concept. That's the phrase I was looking for. But anyway, you know I mean, there are times where you can be really busy and times where you can be open. I mean, it's making the best use of your time in a lot of the scenarios. If you don't have a choice, then you got to make the best of your time. If you're booked from 7 to 5, maybe there's downtime where you go to the bathroom and you're like, okay, well, in that bathroom, that's when I'm going to spend like my 2 minutes I've got to use as my pee break to go look on TikTok because I want to go on TikTok and I just want to watch videos you know? Or you plan on, okay, over lunch, that is when I'm going to whip out my phone for the like 15 minutes I have to eat, and I'm going to watch a 15-minute YouTube video or 15 minutes of a longer YouTube video. I'm going to eat, watch that, have that mainly watching, but definitely eating because I have to eat. And then I have to pick up my phone and then run off to the next thing to go to.
Mm-hmm.
you know, there are other things where it's like, hey, my school day ends at 3, but I still have to sit here for the next 2 hours because my parents aren't going to pick me up until then. So then you got to figure out how are you going to spend your time, especially
Mhm.
when you live on somebody else's schedule. You know, there might be times where it's not just, oh, it's from 7 to 5. Well, really, it's probably from like 6 to 6 because you have to have that like half an hour to get ready, 15 minutes to eat, and then, 15 minutes of transit time, or maybe you have 30 or an hour minute of transit time. And so you keep pushing that earlier or later based on, well, I have to get there somehow, right? And you have to figure out all the plans that it takes to get to that, and get to home. And it's all craziness, right? Like, but you make the best of it. And during transit, maybe if you aren't the one having to drive, you can watch a video, or maybe you turn on something you listen to, like a podcast you want to listen to, and you listen to that while you're driving, as long as
Mhm.
you're still driving safely. Please drive safely, folks.
Yes.
PSA. Um, and if you really want to get something done, you can sometimes do the multitask. Now, the multitask, it's arguable whether you're actually multitasking or really just switching between the two of them. But
Mhm.
occasionally, if you get really good at doing things or you know that something isn't taking a lot of your energy, you can sometimes do something on the side and double up.
Mhm.
Or sometimes you can sacrifice, okay, well, I don't really need to pay attention to class because I kind of already know this content, or the teacher's really boring and I'll learn it later anyway, or I won't and it'll be fine. I'll miss a few points on the test and you do something else with your time. Sometimes you get away with that in school. Sometimes you can't. And if you
Mhm.
can't get away with it, don't try to get away with it.
Mhm.
Only, generally try to get away with things that you think you can get away with and that are somewhat appropriate. Some of that depends on how well you know your teachers, and how well you know the class structure, you know, those sorts of things. Um, but if you can still be responsible, have a really busy schedule, and get everything done. I see there is a request for the Discord link. I will send that after I'm done speaking if somebody else doesn't beat me to it.
Mm. For the Static P
But
friends?
I think so.
Ah, okay. Yeah, we'll
If
get
you
that
know
to you.
where it
I
is,
don't I don't know. I don't know.
okay, I'll just do
Yeah,
it
you don't
now.
have to do it right now. You don't have to do it right now. No, keep
Well,
talking.
I've already lost myself because I've been looking at people making this request, and now I must figure out the request.
Mm, gotcha.
That's the hard part of being both host and the job that you're at, is then you start to
Yeah,
try to multitask like this. And now I can go back to it because now I've done that, right? And
right.
so don't worry, Wednesdays can be very busy because if I'm ever the host, which I'm not, thankfully, today, but sometimes hosting and doing the other stuff that I do coincide with one another to clash. And so either you got to pick one, the other, or you got to get really creative on how you're going to do it. In
Mm-hmm.
this case, I picked one and then I picked the other. And
Mm.
sometimes I've been able to do two things at once. But
Yeah, you're pretty
anyway,
amazing at that.
I'm practiced more than anything. I mean, yeah, if you want to talk about crazy, try having a schedule where you're at Monday, Tuesday, one house, Wednesday, Thursday, the other house, and then every other weekend switches to whichever house didn't have you the last weekend.
Mm.
Keeping track of all your stuff, which I wasn't very good at anyway. But you have to keep track of your homework, you have to keep track of the timetables, you have to remember who are you with this weekend, who are you with for the next day, what is their plans, how are they picking you up, you know. And you could get angry at it, or you can accept that it's what it is, in that sense of, okay, well, I mean, there's not a lot I can do to change this, right? It's not in the make sense circle for me to try to change my school schedule because that's kind of set up by the school and it's kind of required for me to do it unless I want to get into trouble. And I don't really want to get into trouble.
Mm. Trouble is
So I've
fun.
just got to work with what I've got here and make the best of it. How do I make the best of it? And if there's things I want to do, well, how can I include them? Maybe not be the same level that you want to be in it. Criminal Idol 2. Maybe you can't actually fully do all of the different things that you need to do in a very timely manner, but maybe it's like, okay, well, I'm going to set out 3 days in my week and I'm going to spend 15 to an hour on it, and that's all the time I've got, and that's all the time I'll set to it. Knowing that I'm going to get 1 hour less of sleep for the night. you know, Instead of getting 7, you get 6.
Mm. Mm.
Or instead of 8 or 9, you're getting 7 or 8, whatever your floats your boat.
Instead of getting 4, you're getting 3.
In the end, to me, it's all about just floating your boat.
Mm. Yes. Well, you definitely have been through a bunch of stuff, and that the multitasking thing that oh man, I just totally went to Joe. I meant to go to both of us.
Well, you went to Joe, so I
This
mean,
is
you weren't
me.
wrong.
You're always right.
Like, hey, I am not very good at multitasking. I will say this though. When I'm doing something that I can kind of do on autopilot, like for instance, when I got to the point in my inspections job where I was kind of basically doing it on autopilot, I'd go and I'd take the pictures and I'd be in and out as quick as I can. Like the goal was always to be gone within 5 to 10 seconds. So the person who was there watching me do it didn't have time to get out of their chair and get to the door before I was gone, right? And so I'm there, I'm doing my job and doing my best to do it really fast. And I got to the point where I was on autopilot and I was just doing it. And I didn't even have to think about it. At that point in time, I was able to throw education in, and basically in the form of audiobooks and talks and different things that were gonna help me learn. I did the same thing when I was a band instrument repairman. I went through my apprenticeship. I had to be really focused when I was learning how to do it. But then once I knew how to do it and I was just doing it day in and day out, and I didn't have to really, it was on autopilot, right? At that point, I was able to then throw in audio. I could listen to whatever in my headphones. And at that point in time, I was learning people skills. I was learning, different things about how to manage my life, manage finances, manage all kinds of different things. And, I use it as a way to educate myself. And so you can multitask in that sense if you have something that you don't have to put your full focus into because it's just routine, doing the dishes, maybe, or folding laundry or stuff like that. I mean, I find those moments to be really good to throw in some kind of audio where I can listen and learn something, or listen to a book that I wanted to read, or listen to a book that my therapist told me I needed to read, and I put it on audio at that point in time, right? Um, but or driving, like Princess was talking about, those times are great where you can kind of double up some tasks. But there is, my martial arts instructor did say at one point, he's like, there really is no such thing as multitasking. It's just switch tasking. Like, we switch between tasks. Now, but Princess has a point, because I think we can multitask. And I was talking about, those things where we're on autopilot, where we're driving. We listen to stuff on the radio while we're driving. We can listen to audiobooks, we can listen to whatever. We can do these things while we're driving. Don't be it's not always a great idea to be like looking at a screen all the time while you're driving. I mean, if you got to glance here and there, but
Or if you have a camera when backing up.
or what?
If you have a camera when you're backing up.
Oh, yes.
Some
It's
some
good.
screens have the backup
Yes.
camera.
Yes, that's a good screen to look at when you're backing up, for sure. But yeah, I mean, so sometimes it can be, how can I fit these things into my schedule? And then sometimes it's like, okay, I got to figure out how to get rid of some of this stuff off my schedule. And at that point, it comes time to, like what Joe was talking about at the beginning of this topic, where he said, sometimes we have to take a hard look at all those things that we're doing. And we got to make a decision. Is this worth it to me? Is this going to bring me to a better place? Or do I need to make a change here? And sometimes those changes, I will just warn you, we don't always know the full measure of the ramifications of a change we make. Sometimes it can make our lives explode a little bit, or a lot. And it's good to explore and see those possibilities before we make those decisions. But sometimes, I'll just be honest with you, we just can't know until we're in it. And then we're in the change, and it's all swirling around us. And we just do the best we can. So, anyway, hopefully some of that is making some sense. Joe, did you have anything?
What?
To continue?
No.
What?
No.
What?
My brain turned off like an hour ago. That's a joke. But
It's
no,
all
I
good.
don't really have anything more, Joe. I think you've really hit it. And, that it's going to be on all y'all,
Right on.
All y'all.
to go and make that for yourself. So
Hmm.
do it.
You can
Just
subconsciously
do
multitask really well. An excellent, I think, example might be acrobatic high divers. Interesting.
Sounds dangerous.
I don't know if I'd want to multitask while I was acrobatically high diving. I might want to be focused on my acrobatic high diving.
I do my email while I acrobatically high dive. Penguin.
Oh, that's awesome. But anyway, Vinvix, thank you so much for the topic. And looks like we're about to the end of the show here. Um, so man, we did 2 topics and we did them.
We
That
did
we
them
did.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Done did.
Yes.
Well,
So
y'all
anyway,
should give us more topics.
Hmm.
we got
So,
topics.
shh.
Oh wait,
They
we
don't
need
know
more
that.
topics.
There we
Go
go.
send us
We
some
actually
topics.
are actually running somewhat low on topics, so it would be good if anyone has any topics. We're happy to have them and cover them. So please send them our way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Otherwise, I'll have to make some up.
Oh
Hey.
no, you don't want us to make things up, guys.
No, we
Princess
much
makes
prefer
up some
hearing from
really
our
good ones.
audiences.
Princess makes up good ones. I will say that. She
Oh,
used to,
nice.
yeah, well, before she was helping us on the show, she was a regular guest and gave us a bunch of topics, and they were very, very good. Very
Even
deep.
when I was a part of the show, I came up with topics.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. And they're deep. And you know what? Sometimes though, I will say some of them are the hardest ones to talk through cuz they're in-depth stuff, man. And it's awesome. But we would love to do your guys' topics. And so if you have something you'd like us to talk about, go to don'tworrywednesday.com, click the submit a topic button. We would and then just fill that out. We'd love to handle whatever it is that you might be facing. We'd love to talk about it. We'd love to offer some insight, but most of all, let you know that you're not alone. Whatever it is you're going through, you're not alone. People have gone through stuff very similar to what you've gone through. Sometimes we get hit with something really complicated. People have been hit with all that kind of stuff. And sometimes it can really help when we're in the middle of it, like I said at the beginning, to have an outside perspective that can just shed some light on the whole picture. And so that can help us make those decisions in the moment when we can see it, the bigger picture, and be like, oh, I thought I wanted to go this way in this moment, but now that I see the rest of this, maybe it would be better to do this instead. And that can be a very valuable insight. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for being here with us. Thank you for your topics. Thanks for being here in the chat. You guys are lovely. We could not do this show without you guys. You guys are so awesome. And we love you. And I'll tell you what, come back next Wednesday. I think, unless something changes, it might be the 2 of us again. It might be the Double Cup of Joe show again, which would be
Joe's.
Double cup of don't worry, Joe.
Double Cup of don't worry. Yeah.
Double dose
worry
of
about
double
it.
Joes.
Yes.
Oh my! Why do you let me on here?
Because
you're awesome and
amazing.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I don't have to. I can do my job.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But Princess, I gotta put you back on now.
Required.
I have to. Your phone's ringing and everything. You had to be on
My
camera
phone
for
wasn't
that.
ringing. It was actually an alarm for me because I was planning on going to work after Don't Worry Wednesday, but because you messaged that we were starting late, I went to work and did my work before then because I had an
Oh.
experiment that's several hours of incubation, and by several I mean like 16-hour incubation. So
Several is now 16. I always thought several was like 4 or 5, but
That
yeah,
is normally what several is.
several has been redefined.
I thought several was most things over 7. I don't know.
Okay. It could be. But
Yeah.
anyway, thank you guys so much
It
for
has
being here.
several definitions.
I don't know. Should I look up the definition of several?
Sure.
Bye.
More than 2, but not many.
More than 2, but not many.
Ooh, specificity.
And many is just a large number of.
Wow. Wow.
You learn everything on this show. Don't say we didn't teach you the meaning. Okay? You got it now. Several is more than 2, but less than many. Keep that in your head. And if you don't, it was going to be a quiz. Okay? I teach people. I'm teaching you. All right? Next week, You're gonna have to make several comments. More than 2, less than many. Okay, just remember that.
You can make many though. We're not opposed to many.
Just don't make too many.
You can make too many.
No, you can't make too many.
Yeah, you
2
can.
times the large number.
2 times. Yes.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, thank you
Yes.
all. We'll see you all next week.
Yes. We love you guys. We'll see you on Wednesday. Come back. And until then, have a wonderful, wonderful life. And we love you. We'll see you then. Take care, you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.